Yeah, I'm Ed Boyce from Black Ankle Vineyards out in Frederick County, and first of all, I guess I want to thank Tony. Many of you don't know Tony, but he's been one of the few people who's been really instrumental in the great improvement in East Coast wines over the last 10 or 15 years, and we don't get a chance to thank him enough for all the work that he does for us. So thank you, Tony. You know, let me say a few words about the positive aspects of where we're growing wine. You know what? My wife and I decided to start Black Ankle Vineyards 7 or 8 years ago. I guess we could have gone anywhere to start a vineyard, but we chose to do it here because we think that we have some really great things going for us in our part of the world. You know, we have thought one of the issues in Eastern wine growing for many years is that it's much easier to look west to California for advice. You know, all the wine trade magazines focus on advice people in California give us, and people in California speak English, and you don't need a passport to go there, and you know, all those things. But their growing environment is so different. It changes everything when it rains, everything in the vineyard, and because it changes everything in the vineyard, it actually changes everything in the winery also. I have a lot of friends out in California, and we compare how we make wines, and they don't understand what I am doing. I don't understand what they're doing because we're trying to get different things out of our grapes. So, you know, so we spent a lot of time looking to Europe, and we had a lot of very interesting advice. You know, Sarah and I went to Chateau Latour in Bordeaux, one of the famous first growths there, and you know, you're standing in the vineyard, and where those chairs are over there, there's vines growing wine that I think was $1,100 a bottle last year, and where that door is, there's a hayfield. You know, they're growing stuff that they're getting $200 an acre for, and they own it. They own that field. They just say, well, yeah, you can't grow wine there. It's no good. Do they know why? Not really. You know, they have some theories, like, well, yeah, you know, it's stronger soil. It's, you know, they've just learned over time that wine, that what you make there is lousy, and what you make there is you know, out of this world. So, one of the things we are learning on the East Coast is not to just plant grapes wherever we happen to have land. We are starting to learn that. Unlike in California or the other desert countries, Australia, Chile, where soil doesn't matter that much because you control the water. You can make the vines do whatever you want by turning the valve on your irrigation. We can't do that here. We have to be counterpunchers. So we need to find a soil that works with the climate we have, which is, as Tony points out, is more rain than most environments. Also, you go to Europe and you see some of these vineyards on just, you know, hillsides that you can barely walk up, or in Bordeaux on these you know, vines in this. I guess they're planted in soil, but you can't see it. It's all rocks. You know, there's not a single grain of dirt anywhere that you can see. Maybe if you dug down a few feet, you'd see it. There's a saying in Europe that if these great vineyards weren't the most valuable farmland in the world, they'd be the least valuable farmland in the world, because you can't really grow anything else there. But something about a soil that is so weak that it stresses the vines, and you know, maybe it makes the vine think it may not survive, and for all of us, when we think we may not survive, we put a lot of effort into our children, make sure our genes survive. That's what those vines are doing. They're saying, uh-oh, I better work on my children, and you get a lot of grapes, and they're really sweet, and they're trying to make sure the birds come down and spread their seeds all over the place. You know, that's what we're trying to do with these vines. So when we can find, excuse me, a place that, as Tony mentioned, sheds water, that drains fast, gets rid of some of the rain, and also has really low vigor in the soil, and you can grow a really lousy corn crop. You know, that's great. That's what we like, and so we're starting to pick our spots. Climate-wise, you know, other than the rain and the winters, but I think we have started to figure out how to get around the winters. The good news for me is that we are, in terms of heat, in terms of sunlight, we are right in the middle between, say, Napa Valley and Bordeaux. You know, we are warmer than Bordeaux is. We have more hours of sunshine. They have longer days, but it's cloudy more often there. We actually have fewer rain events. When it rains there, it tends to be a drizzly kind of rain. When it rains here, we get these thunderstorms with lots of water. On the other hand, if we get 2 or 3 inches of rain and a lot of it runs off because you're on a hillside, well, how much effective water actually got to those vines? Not that much. So to me, I hope the future of red wines, Maryland and Virginia, is we find our spots and we're able to make a wine that has some of the finesse and elegance of the old world wines, but also some of the lushness and beauty of some of the new world wines. We're right in the middle of those, and maybe we can get away from some of the problems they both have. And I will say, a couple of different growers said this to me when we were over there. We said, well, we have a lot of rain and it's quite humid here in the Mid-Atlantic, and 2 different French people, and I'll well leave you for that, said, oh, humidity is great. Yeah, humidity is what gives you terroir. Dry heat. But they said dry heat, the desert places, Australia, California, Chile, give you varietal character. So you grow a Cab Sauv in Napa, you get something that tastes like Cab Sauv. You grow that same grape, this is the French attitude, in Bordeaux, you get something that tastes like that piece of land. And it might be Merlot that you planted there, it's still going to taste like that piece of land. Everybody has their biases, so I'll leave you to decide whether you like that or not. But I do think we complain a lot about our environment, and we really actually have some real advantages here. And so if we can take a little vineyard Zoloft and be more happy with what we have, I think we can make some really good ones.
Just want to say a few quick words about where the industries have come on the East Coast, and I think now that we've been in this for a steady 200 years, depending upon who you ask, and Thomas Jefferson may say otherwise. We have come from a beginning where we grew a little bit of grape and we made a little bit of wine, and we shared that and began to create an identity as Mid-Atlantic wine, or East Coast wine. And how many of you tried East Coast wine, say, 20 years ago? And what did you think? Can't even say it in public. What happened was we were, and I hear some differing opinions, but I think what was happening was we were putting grapes in the ground, and we were listening to whoever we were listening to, but we were kind of beginning to formulate what it was to grow in a particular place. If you look at Virginia or you look at Maryland, it's not just a state and you put a grape in the ground and it's going to taste like Maryland or Virginia, which may or may not be a good thing. When you look at the geography of the states, you see many different regions. You see hills and you see valleys. You see plains. You see kind of desolate areas. In Maryland, for example, we've got the Piedmont region, which is the Carroll County, the Baltimore County, up through kind of the north of I-95 corridor. If you're driving north, it's the stuff off to the left. And there they've got hills, whereas off to the right, and you do see weather patterns kind of following along this as well, so it's all connected. I haven't decided who I'm with, you or Ed, when it comes to terroir, but the weather seems to follow along with the geography, and the flavors seem to follow along with the geography. To the right of 95, to the south of 95 in Maryland, you've got the Eastern Shore. You've got heavy sand, right, and not much else. I had a grower on the Eastern Shore after I said something about there are no hills. The jury's still out about whether or not you can grow wine with the rain, with the humidity, if there's no hills to run off. And he convinced me finally, after a couple of hours in the cellar, that he had hills. And he took me outside, and he pointed to it. We're standing there looking, and he says, and that's a car over there. And I said, yeah, I'm eye level. He says, no, you're not. That's on the hill. But so then the question becomes, can you still grow good wine on the eastern shore. That's one of the reasons why we have the 3 different wines that we have from Maryland here, is we've got one that's grown in sandy soil. It's flat. You can see for miles, and it's completely flat. And when it rains, you can see puddles form, and then it just sinks through the sand. When you get a hurricane, you see the water come out from the ground because you're at sea level, right? And